Hey everybody, it's John P, and today we're going to take a look at the Hisense Sero 7 Pro. Today's episode of Geek Beat is brought to you by...
This is Audible.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, I picked up the new Hisense Sero 7 Pro. Now, the previous model, the Hisense Sero 7, has been out for, I don't know, months. But the $99 little brother to this thing kind of sucked. So I don't recommend it at all. It has a lower resolution screen. It's not very touch sensitive. It wasn't very responsive. I just didn't like anything about it. So don't waste your money on that. However, the Sero 7 Pro is a different story. I picked it up for $149 at Walmart, and I'll tell you what, this has got to be one of the best tablet values on the market, if not the best. Let's talk about why. What do you get for $149? Well, first of all, you get a quad-core 1.3 gigahertz NVIDIA Tegra 3 processor. You also get 8 gigabytes of built-in storage, and it has 1 gig of RAM for running applications. Now, you can add on a 32 gig SDHC card for about $25, bringing the total storage up to, well, 32 plus 8, 40 gigs. That's pretty good, although I have not even gone over the 8 gigs that I've got built into it. Now, it also has this 7-inch high-definition touchscreen, which runs at 1280 by 800 resolution. I find it to be very easy to read, very crisp, plenty bright enough. It's good even in outdoors light. It's not great, but it definitely gets the job done. It also has Android 4.2, the latest Jelly Bean version of Android. And it includes some other little things that are nice to have. For example, a 5 megapixel rear-facing camera with a flash. That's a big deal because a lot of other tablets don't have those. And it has a 2 megapixel front-facing camera that you could use for, let's say, Skype video calling or taking photos of yourself, eating food for Instagram, whatever you're going to do with it. It does have a USB 2.0 micro port on it, and it has a mini HDMI port, which I really love, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. One other thing they did was they built in NFC, near field communication, to this device, which means you can tap it with other devices to share things, or you could tap it with something like a router to pair up on a Wi-Fi network. Now, it does have dual stereo speakers on the back. They're not the loudest you've ever heard, but they do the job just fine. Another very cool thing, speaking of Wi-Fi networks, is they've built in dual band Wi-Fi. It has both 2.4 and 5 gigahertz bands. So that means you can get off that crowded 2.4 gigahertz spectrum and use the 5 gigahertz spectrums that most routers nowadays have built in. Now, Hisense claims that this thing has a 10-hour battery life. I'm not exactly sure how they measure that. I guess they mean sustained continuous use. For me, this battery lasts days and days. I hardly ever charge it, and I'm using it quite often. So that is fantastic, especially compared to some other tablets. Also, when you buy it and take it out of the box, it comes with some pre-bundled apps, as most tablets do, and phones. But Hisense actually allows you to uninstall those pre-bundled apps, which is very nice for cleaning up space and getting rid of things you don't want on there. The one major drawback, I think, to the Hisense tablet is they're not going to sell as many of these as, for example, Samsung's or Nexus, etc., or at least we don't think they will, since they're only being sold through Walmart. And so that means accessories for these things are going to be kind of slim. You're not going to find Hisense specific cases and things like that. You're going to need to go with the generic ones. Now, how does that compare to some other devices? Let's talk about the Nexus 7 for a minute. The Nexus 7 runs $199 as compared to $149 plus maybe, bring it up to about $175 with an extra 32 gigs of memory in it. Now, this one offers the HDMI output, which the Nexus 7 does not. This one has the micro SD slot, which the Nexus 7 doesn't, although since it's got the built-in memory, it kind of didn't need it as much. This one has more powerful cameras than the Nexus does. And as far as processing power is concerned, they're really comparable, 1.3 gigahertz versus 1.2, both quad-core processors. So for $25 less, you get the dual-band Wi-Fi, which the Nexus 7 only offers single band. So you kind of get a lot more for the money. Now, let's compare it to something that costs more money. This is Samsung's Galaxy Note 8. It runs $399, so we're looking at more than double the cost. What do we get? Well, we're going to have a 1.6 gigahertz quad-core processor as opposed to a 1.3. We're going to get 16 gig of built-in storage space and 2 gig of RAM. So this will run a lot more applications simultaneously since it has twice as much RAM. It also still has a micro SD slot right here. And their micro SD is XC. So that means you can use up to 64 gig cards as opposed to 32 gig cards. So you're going to get a lot more storage and more RAM in this thing. Also, Samsung's has a built-in IR blaster right on the side here, meaning you can use this tablet in your living room, you could surf the web with it, and you can use it to change the channels on your TV, control the volume, and be a whole home entertainment universal remote. Samsung also lets you run multiple windows at once with a split screen kind of environment. It can run up to 20 apps simultaneously. Among those apps, you can use enterprise applications because Samsung targets this at enterprise users with their safe applications. They offer on-device 256-bit encryption, VPNs, and all kinds of other things. Now, Samsung's going to give you one other very unique feature, which is this S Pen that lets you draw and basically turn your tablet into a notepad. That's very cool. Some drawbacks, the cameras are not quite as good. As you notice, the Samsung does not have that little flash on the back. And it's a 1.3 megapixel camera on the front as opposed to 2 megapixel. But they're going to try and make up for it with, some other things like 50 gigs of free Dropbox account space and many other features that I can't go through for double the price. However, it's double the price and it gives you a lot worse battery life. I can't figure out why, but for some reason, I just can't make this thing last for more than about 2 days, even when it's just sitting around and I'm not doing much with it. I've tried to deactivate a lot of stuff. It just doesn't last as long, which is another very cool thing about this Sero 7. Now, I want to show you some other stuff that I really love about it, and for that, we need to plug in the external monitor. Before I show you all the goodies, one thing that I should show you is my little Audible account here, which I love. For those of you who have not yet downloaded and installed the Audible app, it lets you do all kinds of cool stuff. You can certainly see all of your books that you've purchased in here, and you can play them with a single tap, which I really enjoy. This is one of the books that you guys referred me to, the Graveyard book, when I was driving across country. It's pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's as good as Lord of the Rings or anything, but it's definitely worth a listen, especially if you have young kids. So you guys head on over to audiblepodcast.com/GeekBeat and you can get yourself a free book. In fact, one book you might also want to take a look at is by Seth Godin, All Marketers Are Liars. That's a good one. Anyway, let's get back to the beauty of this device when it's hooked up to a TV. One thing that it does, you'll notice I'm holding it kind of in portrait mode at the moment, but it it's always got the screen in landscape mode when it's hooked up to the TV, which I like because it's not flipping back and forth between the apps in those ways. But here's where it gets really cool. Because it's Android, I happen to have a mouse attached to it. As you can see, I can grab things up in the tray here, and I can mess with stuff like the Bluetooth settings, which also show you that I've got a Logitech keyboard installed, which I very much like. So by doing this, I can essentially turn this $149 tablet into a laptop. I mean, it'll do everything you want. You double click on YouTube here, and we can, let's say, search for a show like a boss. Oops. And there it is. I can just click on that, and bingo, we pull it up. You notice it's actually pretty fast. I mean, it responds well. Now, I've also got the Bluetooth connected to this Braven speaker, which is nice because then when we play this is uncensored version, Dave. You may have to do a little bit of editing.
I have to do a lot of editing.
Yeah, you're gonna have to black out some stuff there on the screen. But now we're getting the audio from the speaker. We've got the TV, the full-size monitor.
Thanks for coming to your performance review. No problem. So you're in charge around here.
We can use the keyboard, use the mouse, and it's not just good for this kind of stuff. We can also do, let's say, Word documents. This is an application that allows us to create documents. And so being able to use the keyboard and the mouse is very nice there. We won't save that. You could use it for, let's say, your Hootsuite account or other social media activities. So again, what I love about it is I unplug it, I can turn it off. It's small enough that I can slide it down into my pocket and take off. Then when I get back home or wherever I'm going, plug it in, and it's got as much power and storage as a little laptop, plus you can use it with all the accessories. For $149, and you can get them at Walmart. So that's the Hisense Sero 7 Pro tablet. You guys, if you need a tablet, go get one. You can't go wrong. If you have to take it back to Walmart, they'll take anything back. I just can't recommend it any higher. 2 thumbs up. You guys, give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you enjoyed the review, and we'll see you later.